welcome back. We're making vegan cornbread today. So this is a recipe that I've been making for a long time. It's from one of the first cookbooks I ever owned, called The Vegetarian Epicure by Anna Thomas. I was vegetarian for a long time, but the last couple of years I've been vegan, so I've been finding different ways to adapt my favorite recipes. So I always take a recipe as like a jumping off point and then do what I can to make it my own using what I like, what I have, blah blah. So let's get into it. I've got my dry ingredients here. So it's all-purpose flour, cornmeal, little sugar, salt, and then I've added some other seasonings, nutritional yeast, some parsley, chives, paprika, little garlic powder, little onion powder. So I've got all my dry ingredients in the big bowl ready to go. I'm just going to give these a quick mix. Oh, and baking powder. Did I say baking powder? That's what's going to give rise in this. It's called cornbread. It's technically a type of cake, or quick bread as they call it. This wacky thing here is my Danish whisk. If you don't have one, you don't have to go out and get one. But once you have one, you're going to wonder where it's been all your life, because it's great for different breads, but especially for quick breads. So I'm just going to use that to give my dry ingredients a mixy here. I think it was my sister Jennifer turned me on to the Danish whisk. It's a lovely little tool, and I don't have all the gadgets, so I appreciate the ones I do have. And this one gets a surprising lot of use, especially these days. So those parts of the recipe were already vegan, but for the wet ingredients there was dairy and there was eggs. In the original recipe there was butter, milk, and an egg. So for my purposes, the melted butter, I'm using Crisco Golden. You can buy vegan butters. They're delicious. They almost all have palm oil in them. Crisco Golden also has palm oil in it. So that's problematic for some reasons, and I don't always get it. I often use coconut oil. That would work too. So you can use whatever margarine or coconut oil you have on hand that you prefer. And, like with all things, there's like balance, trying to figure out what we can bring into our homes, into our bodies, the ethics. And for the egg, you can do a flax egg, which I sometimes do, which is flax and water. But today I was cooking chickpeas anyway, so I had the water left over. The aquafaba makes a great replacement for egg. So I've just measured out a 1/4 cup of that for my egg. Adding that to my organic almond milk and melted margarine. Ooh, and I also put in some sourdough. Oh yeah, that's a little twist I'm trying today. This is a bold experiment. I'm going to let you know how it goes. But so I've been feeding a sourdough starter, and I wanted to try how that would be in this. So I just pulled it out of the fridge this morning, and my sourdough is a liquid starter, 100% hydration, so it's half water, half flour. So in half a cup of this, you can think, okay, there's a 1/4 cup of flour and a 1/4 cup of liquid, so I use that in place of a 1/4 cup of the flour and in place of a 1/4 cup of the milk, almond milk in this case. Now before I add the wet ingredients to the dry, a little trick I learned to help keep inclusions from settling to the bottom, I like to include some whole kernels of corn, so you get like a little corn here and there. So a way to keep them from falling to the bottom is to mix them first with the dry ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and pop those in to my mix of dry ingredients. And I happen to have some fresh dill here, which ain't getting any fresher, let me tell you. So I'm going to go ahead and include some of that too, because I think it's going to bring a nice flavor. So I'm just going to give that a little snippy-snip into my mix. Again, this isn't something I would run out and buy for this dish. I happen to have it. If you have dry dill, I'm a fan of dill all around in all its many forms. Probably getting a little carried away in my enthusiasm, but that's going to bring a nice dilly savory. You know, I'm really into the savory flavors for my cornbread. So I'm just going to stir these inclusions into my dry mix. Mixy, mixy, mixy. Now this is the stage to get everything really well mixed in here. Because once you add the liquid, you want to just mix it. I did, years ago, I did a certificate in baking and pastry arts at George Brown College. And so I've learned some of the science of baking from that. And once you add your wet ingredients, you don't want to develop too much gluten for this recipe. When you're making a bread, like a yeasted bread or a sourdough bread, yes, you want to develop that gluten so that it has strength in the dough. But for something like cornbread or quick bread, you want it to remain more tender. So you want to mix it just until everything is wet, and even if there's one or two pieces of flour that aren't quite wet, that's okay. And that's where this Danish whisk is just lovely for that, because it gives a nice gentle, yes, you want it mixed, but just mixed, not over mixed. So I'm just going to gently incorporate my wet with my dry. And then I'm going to stop before I've overmixed it. Another tool I always love to have is a rubber spatula. Many times a day I'm reaching for a rubber spatula to scrape out a jar that's almost empty, or a bowl that's almost empty, or if we're putting away leftovers, want to get all that good stuff put away. Rubber spatula is your friend. So I could make this as one big loaf, but I'm feeling like cupcakes, so I'm going to scoop it into cupcakes. One equipment I don't have is, like, you know, the ice cream scoop that has the quick release. If I had one of those, I'd be using it now to quick release muffins in. I don't, but I'm going to use my quarter cup, and it works almost the same as good. I'm a fan of using what we got and being appreciative, gratitude for what we've got. So I'm just going to use a quarter cup to start scooping my muffins. Okay, so scraping the last little bits out here into my muffin tins. I don't know if you guys can see this. I've got like these cheapy disposable muffin tins. Like, talk about having the equipment that you have, working with what you've got. These work fine. I've got the liners in them. They would probably not work so well without the liners, but they just hold the form, and then I use my proper baking pan to support. Got the soundtrack going on here. So these are ready to pop into the oven. Just a quick hint, you can, any quick bread that you can do as a big pan, like banana bread or what have you, you can do it as muffins. Just always remember that the baking time is going to be reduced. Keep the temperature the same because you want them cooked well, but remember that the time is going to be reduced because they're smaller pieces. So I've got my oven preheated to 375. I'm going to just pop these in. And I'll check back on them in 15 minutes. Alright, the muffins are still in the oven, but I realized I'm going to want some nice butter melting into my warm muffins, and I realized I've only got a little bit left of my last batch of vegan butter, so I'm going to whip up another batch. This recipe is from Loving It Vegan, and I'll link that down below, because there's different recipes on the interwebs for making your own vegan butter, but most of them use lecithin, which I don't have. It's hard to find where I live, and so this is the one that I use because it doesn't use lecithin. It uses the technology of a blender, which I now have a blender that I actually really like better than any blender I've had before. And so in the mix is organic almond milk, apple cider vinegar, nutritional yeast, little turmeric, and salt, and about 2 tablespoons of canola oil. And then to that, I'm going to add a cup of organic coconut oil. So maybe they'll find out something later that is problematic about coconut oil, but from what I know, the little research I've done, it's less problematic than the palm oil that is in so many of our favorite vegan fatty products. So yeah, this is the happy medium that I'm working with for now, and you know, like always, as more information comes available, I'll keep doing the best I can as I can. And you know, none of us are perfect. It's a journey. It's about doing the best we can with the information we have, with the resources we have, and so on. So I'm just going to blend this up and then pop it in the fridge to chill. Hey, so I've just pulled the muffins out and they've passed the toothpick test. You know, the toothpick came out clean. So they are good to go. I'm just going to let them cool down before I dive into them. Yeah, keep your hands safe. This is like a knockoff of the Of glove, so they allow your fingers to move, but keep your hands safe from burns. And I like to sing to my muffins while they're cooling down. So here they are on their cooling rack. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will. Love me tender, love me long, take me to your heart, for it's there that I belong, and will never part. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my darlings, I love you, and I always will. Love me tender, love me. I'll be yours through all the years, till the end of time. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my muffins, I love you, and I always will. So let's see if they're cool enough to slice into. Right, these guys look tender, they look sweet, and I am ready for them. I don't usually eat first thing. I get hungry right about this time. What is it? It's like almost 12:30. Are you guys breakfast people, or are you more like me for brunch? So it's still warm, which is fine. With like yeasted breads or sourdoughs, you want to wait till they're cool to cut into them. Quick breads are fine. These papers come off so nicely. Oh man, I used to get the cheaper papers and they would always stick, but these ones come off so nicely. So the bottoms are brown. They smell, guys, so good. So I'm just gonna slice this guy open, and you know, I say they don't need butter. They've got butter in them. But you know what? They don't mind. And I got my vegan butter right here. So I'm just gonna slap a little bit of that in there. Oh my goodness, this is pretty exciting. I'm sometimes a little bit immoderate with how much butter I like. So there it is, just like melting on there nicely. Can you see that? That, you guys, wow. Oh yes. Wow. That is nice. I'm trying to detect if there's something different with the sourdough. Like maybe some of the bubbles are bigger. Maybe there's something in the flavor. It's so good. This is not really a good science experiment because I'm not doing like a side-by-side comparison. But as far as like one-off, I would say it's good. So throwing some extra sourdough into your cornbread or your corn muffins, not a bad thing. Anyway, thanks for playing. You guys, let me know which of your favorite baking recipes you'd like me to veganize. Leave me in the comments. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Till then, peace.